let's move on now to Kyle Dubas.
Sure, Kyle.
So this is also massive news in the hockey world. It happened one day apart. Treliving was named GM of the Leafs, and then the next day, Kyle Dubas named the president of hockey operations for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And they had their press conferences, their introductory press conferences on the exact same day. It's just funny how that works out. But
Bravo.
My initial take on the situation, Lepore, is that Kyle Dubas knew exactly what he was doing. And now the situation has become a lot clearer. It is 100% clear to me that this guy knew that he had this opportunity in his back pocket. And I think that's why he pushed the envelope a little bit and tried to push his luck and get a little bit more money and ask for more autonomy from Brendan Shanahan, because I think he knew that the Penguins were pursuing him. And there were rumors like going back a month, 2 months ago that the Penguins were interested in Dubas.
Funny,
as soon as they cleaned out their front office, like the first thing you heard in the media was Kyle Dubas to Pittsburgh. So I think he used that as leverage, and I think he was okay with not being the GM of the Leafs. And it all worked out for Mr. Kyle Dubas because he got a promotion. He probably got more money, and now he's in a pretty good situation as Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin's general manager. And I know the team has maybe a lot more work to do than the Leafs do, for example, but pretty good spot for Mr. Kyle Dubas.
Yeah, especially with the title, president of hockey operations. People, of course, everyone's going to talk about Sid and Malkin and Sullivan and Letang and those names and say, this team has to win now. And yeah, that's the goal. I'm sure Sid wants another cup or 2 or 3 before he retires. So there's the pressure with Kyle there, but he wouldn't have been given that title unless a long-term vision was in place for him with this organization. The job itself in the short term, I guess it's pretty similar to the situation he had in Toronto. His core pieces are there, his stars are there, and he was asked about them. And he said, I would bet on them. So in typical Kyle Dubas fashion, he's going to stick with his guns. So he's got to fill out the rest. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And of course, it's going to be fun because you're going to have the Dubas fans saying, I told you so every time he makes a good deal or something works out for the Penguins. And you're going to have the Dubas haters screaming anytime a deal doesn't go their way. So if there's one thing, this fan base needed is to follow another GM to day in, day out and judge all their moves just to make us feel good or bad about ourselves. But he's president of hockey operations for the Pittsburgh Penguins. I've been to Pittsburgh.
Impressive.
Yeah, man. I was in Pittsburgh a couple years back for a bachelor party, first time there. It's a cool town, man. It's a cool town. We stayed right by the Penguins arena, the brand new arena. It's beautiful. Went down to see a ball game, go see the Pirates. Beautiful, beautiful new park. It's not a big city, but it's not necessarily a small city either. And what everyone knows about Pittsburgh is, even beyond them being successful, they love their teams. The Steelers are everywhere. Everyone loves the Penguins. It'd actually be an interesting poll. And Penguins fans, if you're listening, comment down below or watching on YouTube. Of all the major American cities, like the point I always make about the Leafs, and here comes the hate rage again, is Toronto is not necessarily the biggest city in North America, but it's the biggest city in North America where the hockey team is the most important team. That's what I've always said. And that is an objective slam dunk truth, no matter how much people want to debate about that. In New York, the Knicks and the Yankees are more important than the Rangers, the Giants and the Jets. In LA, I don't even want to compare the Kings to the Lakers and the Dodgers. In Toronto, number one is the Maple Leafs. But as far as Pittsburgh goes, I would say that, they don't have a basketball team. I would say that, of course, and everyone would agree the Steelers are prime 1A, but I think they really do love their Penguins. They've won, so that helps. And maybe it doesn't matter to some GMs or other executives or players when they come into an organization, but it would for me. I'd want to go into a market where people want you to win. People care. And the point I always make is, and I've never really thought about it as far as executives go, I've always pointed to players, is that You get one career, one, and you don't know how long it's going to be. Would you not want to play in an environment where the arena's packed and people care? And we can talk about the importance of money and this and that and geography, time zones, Canada, tax, blah, 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 blah. But if it's not at the top of the list, it's got to be near the top of the list. Play in a market where people care. And in Pittsburgh, they care. So bravo, Kyle. You got a big position with a historic market in the National Hockey League, and people care. And there's a window now to win. So, I mean, there's nothing really you can argue against with that decision.
And with the guys that are still there, Sidney Crosby, slam dunk Hall of Famer. Same with Geno Malkin, Mike Sullivan, who's been one of the best coaches, of the last 10 to 20 years. And Dubas even said it at the start of his press conference when he was introduced as president of hockey ops for the Penguins. He said, my main goal right now is to have a short-term vision for the future, and surrounding the core of Crosby, Malkin, and Letang with players who can help them win now. Because clearly in his conversations with Crosby, like, Crosby has no intention of just retiring or suddenly becoming bad. Like, Crosby's still like a 90-point player. Yeah. And he's still a phenomenal two-way 200-foot player who can put up 90 to 100 points.
Yep.
Like, don't get it twisted. He's still one of the best players in the world. So Dubas said it. He's like, my goal right now is to try to win in the short term while these guys are still here and under contract. But he said, I also have to have an eye on the future and building one of the best organizations in hockey. So it's a very enticing job. As you said, Lepore, it's a place where the fans really care about hockey. And yes, the Steelers are number one, but the Penguins, I think, are a very close second in that city. And I could be wrong. Maybe you can tell us otherwise if you're a Penguins fan or you live in Pittsburgh. But it's a great situation. Honestly, I think it worked out for everybody. Dubas got his promotion. He got more money, you would assume. Treliving goes from the Flames to the Leafs. He comes in with a lot of confidence and poise and experience. It seems like Shanahan's happy. The Leafs are happy. The Penguins are happy. And now we'll see how it all plays out in year one, because 365 days from now, people might be losing their shit over some of the decisions that are made by both of these managers. Well, because Treliving's the GM, Dubas is the president. So I don't know. We'll see how that dynamic plays out as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, we'll judge them based on the decisions that they make over the next calendar year and more than that. And that's what this is all about, isn't it?
Yeah. As far as Crosby goes, it's funny. People sometimes, I mean, we're just used to athletes retiring in their mid to late 30s. Maybe they get to 40. So we just always kind of assume they're going to at that point. But like you said, Sid's still lighting it up. And he had 1,500 points this year. And you look at that list, I think he sits like 14th or 15th right now, NHL all-time scoring. And you look at the list, and he's not too far off really climbing up that list. I mean, maybe he can't get to Yager, because Yager's at like 1921 or something like 1921 or 19. Yeah,
because Yager's right behind Gretzky at this point.
Yager got second. Yeah. He caught Messier, and then obviously Messier caught Howe. But yeah, I mean, Sid might retire. I think it's a possibility to be like top 5. So, and even that's a motivation too. Like, we know Ovechkin's not going to retire until he breaks Gretzky's record. Maybe Sid's kind of eyeing that, like, hey, I want to be top 5 scorers in the history of the NHL.
Crosby right now, 50 goals away from 600.
Yeah.
As you said, he just surpassed 1,500 points. He has 1,502 points. I think Crosby wants to climb up those leaderboards, man. This guy's not going anywhere anytime soon. This past season, 33 goals, 60 assists, 93 points, and he played all 82 games. And let's keep in mind, if the Pittsburgh Penguins did not lose to the Chicago Blackhawks late in the season, the Florida Panthers would not have made the playoffs and would not be in the Stanley Cup final. And who knows how history would have played out.
Yeah. Yes or no? Yes or no? He needs about 300 points to clip Marcel Dion at number 5. Does he do it?
Slam dunk.
I think so too.
300 points. Slam dunk.
I think so too.
He's not going anywhere, man. He's still in phenomenal shape. He hasn't really, I mean, he's maybe lost a little bit of a step from his prime, but he's still a really good skater too.
It's the best. Sid's the best, man. Sid's the best.
Yeah, Sid's an absolute stud.